So in particular, once we've supplied a set of actions and a state representation, we would like agents to do as well as they can without necessarily questioning what we gave them. So in this case of temporal abstractions, again, hierarchical optimality is the notion that the agent should do the best that it can, respecting the high level or temporal extract actions that they're given, without having to kind of question whether it could do better by not listening to that whole concept.
Right. And, so maybe it's the case that we should include in our options every single primitive action, every single atomic action. Maybe we don't have to do that. It really just sort of depends upon what you're trying to accomplish and what the trade-offs are. But we're making those trade-offs all the time, even when we define the problem in the first place.
I guess that's fair.
Right. But in the same way that once we have all the machinery of SMDPs in place, we might as well just pretend that we're dealing with MDPs for this kind of purposes of planning and learning. We sort of should do that with the set of options that we have and the set of state features that we have. So that's a big win, that we're going to still get optimality. It'll be limited by the set of options that we've constructed, but it was limited by the set of actions that we had in the first place. There's other things that sort of fall out from that. One is state abstraction, which we talked about before, that because we have these different options, if we are lucky or clever, we might be able to define options that don't require that we pay attention to the entire state and pay attention to everything that's going on. And if so, that can be a big win. But there's also something else, and I said this on the first slide. Because we're able to jump ahead from one doorway to another doorway, it allows us to avoid wandering around in, say, this northeast room, right? Which means we get to avoid what I'll call the boring parts of the Markov decision process, the parts of the state space that don't matter. Because remember, fundamentally, in order to do reinforcement learning, we have to worry about exploration versus exploitation. But the options, because they have these policies built in and because they're trying to accomplish very specific things, allow us to avoid having to pay attention to large parts of the state space. So they actually help us with exploration.
So with the idea that we can focus our decision-making energy on the places where those decisions actually have an impact, as opposed to stuff that really, there's only one right answer. We shouldn't be thinking about it.
Right. So in fact, the word that you mentioned, there's a phrase you used there that I think is just perfect, which is we need to focus on the places where we can actually make decisions. And because options allow us to kind of jump forward in time, it means in some very important sense from planning at that level, there are no decisions to happen here. We made the decision when we decided to execute the option, go to the southern door. How it gets there is its business. We're just assuming that it works. In the same way that when we decided to execute the up action or the left action, we didn't worry about what was happening while that action was being executed. We didn't think about it at all. Those are the decision points. That's what makes the decision process, and that's where we should be putting our computational energy. So insofar as we can jump ahead in the future, we can avoid making decisions, which means we avoid doing exploration, and that is a huge win.